Hello everybody and welcome back to the Fantasy Football Fix YouTube channel. I'm FPL Phillips or Eddie, and today I'm bringing you a video that's going to be something that I can pretty much guarantee you've not seen anywhere in FPL so far this season, and in particular definitely not on YouTube. But I'm going to be bringing to you something that I'm very much considering with my FPL, why I'm thinking of going into this season with a very different looking strategy to previous campaigns, and why I might be using this and why you guys should consider doing it too. So what is this strategy? Well, I've tried to summarise it up here, and it's basically the added squad depth element that we've not seen in FPL for quite some years. It's very accustomed, it's very standard to have very cheap players on your bench. 4.5 million strikers, 4.5 million mids, 4.0 defenders all over the place. And this season, there aren't too many impressive options at the 4.5 mid bracket, at the 4.5 forward bracket. There aren't really any options either that we know are going to be starting and nailed on. Some might emerge. There's that fella at Southampton, I think, who could be an option. 4.0 million defenders, I think there are a few options. Barco, also the fella at Southampton as well. But there really are kind of short-term picks in Barco anyway. Some might be more long-term, but in general, a lot of teams have a few of these in, either the 4.5 million forward, the 4.5 million mid, or at least one, sometimes two 4.0 million defenders. And I think that people aren't spending enough on their bench in general, and I'm considering spending a fair bit more on my bench than other people are doing. And I've put down a few key points here as to why I think this might be a positive strategy going into this season. Firstly, there's a few smaller things. The international duty returns, we've had major tournaments this summer, we've got people coming back from the Olympics, etc. like that. Those players might see reduced minutes early on. There's been quotes just last few days from Pep talking about players like Foden, who you might want in your squad, but you're concerned about expected minutes, and maybe you're going to start him anyway, but extra bench cover could be good for that, to cover any surprise benchings or absences from certain games. There's also the depth to cover injuries. With all these tournaments, all these extra minutes that players have played, there could be more injuries at the start of this season than we've seen in previous years. And I think that having that depth to cover injuries and also bench players for a few game weeks, which we'll get onto in a minute, could be very important. This is even more so the case because we now have 5 free transfers, or the ability to roll up to 5 free transfers, which is something that is, of course, a new rule from the previous 2 free transfers that we were allowed. In this way, that short-term injuries, I think that are hamstrings, things that are less serious than that, maybe minor sprains, that would leave a player out for 1 or 2, maybe even 3 game weeks, would usually be cause for a transfer out. But if this is a player who maybe you're going to want back in those 2 or 3 game weeks, then you're using 2 free transfers there that in the past you wouldn't have lost out on that much. Now with the ability to roll up to 5, I think rolling those free transfers is going to be seen as even more of a positive, and the ability to bench someone like a mid-price midfielder, maybe like a Foden, for example, for out for 2 weeks, you can bench him and still have an equally good option on your bench. Not Harry Winks, but an actual good midfielder, and not be forced to go for a transfer across to another option. And you can build up for, a mini wild card if that's the kind of aggressive strategy that you want to play. It's more of a patient and then, bam, all in one, use your transfers in one short hit. You're also able to bench players based on their form. At the start of the season, some players might be off form that you expected to be on form. You might want to transfer them out, but if not, then you could bench. And if 2 players have equally a good a fixture, then you've got the depth and the 15 to do that. And then finally, the potential bench boost. It looks like there might be fewer double game weeks this year, so early on you could look at the bench boost. With this team, you'd probably have the ability to bench boost it if you wanted. It would just be that extra 0.5 million on the goalkeeper you'd likely have to spend to get a starter at the start of the year, which wouldn't be ideal for game week 1. But that's the only area where I see that you're going to have to modify a team like I'm going to show you in a moment to actually come out with a bench boost strategy. So let's have a look at some examples of what I'm looking at, a team, and then also kind of a rotation strategy to have as your base plan. So firstly, we're going to take a look at Firstly, we're taking a look at this, I should say. So I've gone with an attacker rotation here. Two players that a lot of people have in their teams in Muniz and Isak. Isak is going to be in pretty much every FPL team you see, a guarantee come game week 1. But someone like Muniz is quite a popular third forward pick, maybe alongside Haaland, Isak as well. So those front three. And then I'm proposing that maybe you go for someone like a Brian Mbeumo in your midfield. Now, granted, he's 7 million and is probably one of the most expensive proposals that you'd put forward to go into an attacking rotation strategy. But there are some games for someone, even like an Isak, where you would maybe want to bench him. So he's got a team like Man City, say, in game week 6, could be one where you're going to want to bench him. And having a player on your bench who can come in, like an Mbeumo, could be very helpful in that game week where he faces a West Ham United at home, you'll see. So having this kind of setup where you have 3 very strong attackers, but, not low in price and not low in value, and then playing 2 of them each week. Now, this historically won't have gone down well because you've got quite a lot of money down there on your bench pretty much every single game week if you stick with this. And granted, I have made a hyperbole of this and gone for a very extravagant, very expensive example. But you could easily kind of pull this off with a 5.5 million forward, maybe, and then 2 5.0 million midfielders. If you want to go that way, you could have someone like a Rodgers in, who's very popular at the moment. You could have Armstrong. You could have Chris Wood, another 6 million forward. And you don't have to have someone like an Isak who's at that expensive price point, is what I'm trying to put out to you here. But if you can get some nailed-in players and you have them in this kind of rotation format, I've used the Fantasy Football Fix AI rotation planner to come up with mine, then I think this could be a very, very nice looking strategy. And the plus is that if you have, Isak gets injured or you don't end up going with a strategy, then you have still got a very solid asset, even if they've got maybe a tougher fixture on paper to come in. Say, even if you did want to bench Isak in game week 3 against Tottenham, which maybe you wouldn't want to anyway, to be honest, having him to come in if Mbeumo's out for that game week would definitely be a strong thing. So I like the look of this. I'm aware it's going to be controversial, so let me know down below in the comments. Now let's take a look at a bit of a team that these guys would be in and show you kind of how it would look in its full format. So this is the bit of a makeshift draft that I've put together, but it shows how spreading the funds around and maybe using a few options here and there that you might not have seen in many drafts down on the bench can give you a really nice even spread of funds, and also the ability to have those reinforcements down there on the substitutes bench when required. So we've got Raya, 5.5 million keeper in goal, 2 5.0 million defenders, Munoz and Maatsen, who rotate well with Robinson down there on the bench, a 4.5 mil defender. You could easily have another 4.5 mil defender down there on the bench instead of Barco as extra backup, but I personally don't think that's quite necessary. We've then got that midfield with Mbeumo in it, and then also Muniz and Isak are 2 of the forwards in this side, so they would rotate in that form. And yeah, you're going to have an expensive asset down there on the bench, but you can even work out more extravagant rotation plans than this. Nothing ever goes to plan in FPL or football really for a various degree, so it's hard to plan long term with these kind of strategies. But having a very strong front 8 in general, I think could be a really nice selection, even just as much as having Rodgers or Smith Rowe, Pereira, that kind of bracket of player, 5.5 mil, Hudson-Odoi, down there on the bench, to come in for game weeks where his fixture looks stronger than one of your other front 8s could be really nice. So that's the kind of thing I'm looking at with this team and with my overall drafts in general. I think it only really works if you're considering dropping either one of Haaland or Mo Salah, which I think a lot of people are kind of more starting to maybe chicken out a little bit and come to the realization that Haaland and Salah are very, very impressive assets and maybe do belong in all of our teams. But it makes bringing in someone like a Palmer or another one of those Saka price midfielders a very difficult thing. And so with this, you're going to get a much more balanced spread. You've still got that 6.5 million price point of Johnson if you want to move him across to Nkunku or Garnacho. There's lots of ways you could mix this draft up, maybe dropping Munoz down to a cheaper defender and upgrading Maatsen to someone else that you like. I'm aware these picks in this draft aren't going to be certainly for everyone. This is just the kind of thing that I was looking at myself. And I'm interested to hear your guys' thoughts. I'm aware it's not a popular video topic or anything like that that's going to do well in the algorithm, so a thumbs up on the video would be much appreciated if you have enjoyed it. As I said, the main thing about this is the discussion and the interest around the strategy and what you kind of guys are going for. So let me know down below in the comments. I'll try my best to get back to all of you and hopefully have some productive talks, because that's what all this malarkey before game week 1, where there's not really any real planning to be done, is about, hey, having a bit of fun and enjoying the process of going through building some drafts. So thank you very much for watching, everyone. Like I said, any support is much appreciated. And until the next one, I'll see you very soon. Goodbye.